Hi, welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Trahern. I'm the CEO of the Country Music Association, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today at the Billboard conference as we're getting ready to kick off 50 years of CMA Fest. How many of you are coming for the first time this year? Woo! Where are you from? West Virginia. And then how many of you go back to the fairground days? And where are you guys? Where are you from? Well, we'll hear some stories today because we have some artists who did CMA Fest for the first time in 2012 at the stadium, and some others of us who go all the way back.
Look at you looking at me.
So I think the thing that makes CMA Fest fanfare so special is the relationship between amazing artists and our passionate fans. There's a lot of other shows out there. You guys play a lot of shows. But these artists come back year after year and play for free because of their commitment to you guys, the fans, and I appreciate that so much. I'm going to start here. I'm so excited today to have Bill Anderson, Laura and Alaina, Brian Kelley, and Terri Clark with us. What a great group. So thank you guys for saying yes. Bill, we're going to start with you. And I have a picture up here from 1978 with you.
I was never that young.
You're still that young. But Bill was actually at the very first fanfare in 1972. Do you want to share first a story about how that all came about?
We used to have an event in the fall every year in Nashville called the Disc Jockey Convention. And the country music disc jockeys who played our records on the radio all over the world, but particularly all over the United States and Canada, would come to Nashville for 3 or 4 days and have a get-together and party a little bit and talk about the music and the various things that they were involved in. And the Disc Jockey Convention actually was kind of the forerunner of what is now CMA Week in the fall. It's become so big, but the Disc Jockey Convention started in the mid-1950s, and the word got out that this was a great party, a great place to be, Nashville in the fall. And so in addition to the disc jockeys, fans started coming from all over the world, and fans would come pretending to be disc jockeys. The only way they could get into the events was to tell somebody that they represented a certain radio station. So they'd bring their little tape recorders from home and put on a badge that said they worked for a certain radio station. And it got to the point where the artists could not visit with the legitimate disc jockeys because we couldn't get through the other people that were claiming to be disc jockeys. And the whole thing got very confusing. And one day, me and George Hamilton IV, Bud Wendell, who at that time was the manager of the Grand Ole Opry, and an agent manager named Hubert Long, the 4 of us met one day in an old motel down next to the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville during the Disc Jockey Convention. And we were talking about the fact that we couldn't get to talk to the legitimate disc jockeys because of all the fans that were pretending to be disc jockeys. And Bud Wendell spoke up, and I'll never forget this. He looked at all of us and he said, maybe we need to have a convention for the fans. And we all laughed because we thought he was making a joke. He said, I am very serious. We are thinking about starting a convention for the fans. And in 2 years, Fanfare was born. Yeah.
And I think you've been to all but one the year you had your appendix out.
Fanfare's been going, or CMA Fest as it's now known, is in its 50th year, and I've been at 49 of them. And the only year I wasn't here, I was in the hospital, and I wished I was here.
And a shameless plug to those of you who are going to look for air conditioning downtown this week. Stop by the Country Music Hall of Fame, and if you have time to spend a few hours there in the air conditioning, there's an exhibit on Bill and his songwriting and artistry career and his relationship with the Opry that my husband and I just happened upon it a few weeks ago, and I called Bill the day after and I said, this was so great. So do yourself a favor if you have some time, and please go by and see it, particularly having seen Bill today.
Thank you. What do I owe you for that plug? I do hope some of you can stop by and see it. They did a wonderful job putting it together.
So Terri, you first performed in 1995 there. I love this photo from 1996. because I think it speaks to the heart of that special relationship, I would say, between artists and fans. Talk to us about meeting fans in those days, your first early days.
Oh, well, first of all, my very first fanfare was as a fan, 1987. I moved to Nashville in 1987, and the two things that I had said I had to participate and had to witness was I had to go to the Grand Ole Opry and I had to go to fanfare. There used to be a country music show on television called This Week in Country Music, hosted by Lorianne Crook and Charlie Chase. And I would set my alarm for 2 a.m. at home in Medicine Hat, Alberta, because that's when it came on. And I would record it on our Betamax or VHS or whatever was in style at the time. I'd get up the next morning and I'd watch it before I went to school. And they covered fanfare, and they covered all the artists there. So when I moved to Nashville, I somehow managed to snag a pass from a manager of a Canadian artist named Ray Griff. And they got me into the fairgrounds, and I stood in line for autographs from Randy Travis to Patti Loveless to Keith Whitley, Holly Dunn, some artists who are no longer with us that made a tremendous impact. And I just remember it was 1,000 degrees in there. John Anderson, and I asked John Anderson the dumbest question. I said, "How many hats do you have?" And you know I've been asked the same question since, but I have 12 at the moment. I'm wearing, 11 at home, one on my head.
Having come as a fan, when you came as an artist, how did that change how you interacted?
Tremendously, because I remembered what it meant to me to make that eye contact and have that connection and just have somebody acknowledge me as not just somebody who's watching them on TV, as a person. It's like seeing these people, seeing an artist in three-dimensional living, breathing form that you're used to just seeing on your screen all the time or on your phone these days, I think, and knowing they're a human being and them acknowledging the fact that you really, really support what they're doing is so important. And I have had a special connection with my fans ever since. And I've felt, it's very important that we make that connection and then eye contact and make every person feel like they're the only person in the room at that moment. I think that's just so important. And I think that in country music especially, that comes back to you tenfold. And I think that people remember that moment. And it can affect them for the rest of their lives or how they feel about themselves in that moment. And and fans also, they're their own community. You have a fan club who become each other's friends, and they meet up at shows, and people who maybe felt like they didn't belong somewhere or didn't feel like they had that kind of support system in their own personal life can form that with other people. So that camaraderie and that community is really important for them beyond just you being the catalyst that gets them together.
And many of you are part of that community, so thank you.
Yes, I think I have some of them here today.
Hi. Beach Cowboys up next. Brian Kelley, you came as a fan too.
Sure did, yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I got invited, finished my first year at Belmont. I transferred in, so it was technically my fourth year of college. And had a friend, she had some extra tickets. And I remember Alan Jackson closed out the night. I remember seeing a black SUV pull up right beside the stage. He got out. It was incredible. First time I'd seen Alan Jackson. But one thing that I'll never forget, obviously that, but Josh Turner played a little bit earlier that night. And when he did Long Black Train, the entire stadium, every single person was singing. And it was like, for those 3.5 minutes, we were no doubt having church in a stadium, maybe drinking beer at the same time. And that's country music, and it was powerful. It's so special to just see your heroes with people that have traveled all across the world, all across the states, to be in this one place to appreciate the same thing. It's undeniable energy and support, and it's just such a special week.
So I said to Brian earlier, Josh is opening up the stadium on Sunday night, and it's the 20th anniversary of Long Black Train. So now that I know you, I'm going to expect you guys to all be singing along Sunday night. So your first time you were at Fanfare was 2012. You played the BMI tailgate party.
Yep.
Then the next year, you went straight to the big stage. What was it like to go from playing in a parking lot to suddenly being in front of 50,000 fans?
It was mind-blowing. to be honest with you. You know, when we played the BMI stage, we kind of took the mindset that we were in the stadium. You know, in a sense, we said, hey, if we do good this year, maybe we'll be in there next year. And at the end of the day, it all circles back to fans. You know, like that year that we had that put us from the parking lot to the stadium was because of fans. You know, the support from radio programmers and everybody that was digging what we were doing. So without y'all, without the fans, we wouldn't have had that jump. People listening to our music, supporting what we do. And we were just mind blown, to be honest with you. It happened really fast, but just very grateful. It was a dream come true, no doubt about it.
And more time, more performances ahead. So
Let's go. Let's go.
So Lauren, we've got a photo of you. Oh, boy. And to me, this just speaks to what that is about. Look at the delight on their faces and on your face. That just makes me smile. Your first time, though, was in 2012, fresh off of American Idol. So here you're doing TV nationwide, and now you're becoming one of us. Talk about that experience the first time.
Well, I'm from a small town in Georgia, and I didn't get out much before that TV show, so I had never been to CMA Fest. So my first time, I came as an artist, but I think I came more as a fan because I was so excited. I'd always wanted to go. I'd listened, but I'd never actually attended. And I just remember, like, I was every bit as excited as every one of y'all are. And I think the thing about artists is, like, we're all fans too. That's why we do country music, because we are fans too. We love country music. And I remember I was walking around and all the most famous people I ever dreamed of meeting were like walking down the same hallways as me. And I was like, I am going to get arrested or something. I do not belong here. But I wasn't treated that way. And it's such a community in country music with all of us, the people that work in the industry, the people at the labels, the people at the radio stations, you guys. I mean, it's just like a family. It really, really is. And that was such an amazing experience. I'll never forget it. I remember I got to sing with Martina McBride at the stadium. I think I did. I blacked out. I'm pretty sure I did it. I've seen a video, but it's amazing. And just to be a part of it. No, we all come as fans. I still come as a fan. I'm sitting on the couch with Bill Anderson right now, which is pretty awesome. And it's just so wonderful to have something like this to celebrate what we all love so much and what we all have in common. Like, there's so much going on in the world, but everybody in this room loves country music, and this week is designated to celebrating that. And I think we all look forward to it. It's a crazy week for us. It's a busy week for us, but it's just a week of celebrating what we all love so much. And I'm always thrilled to be a part of it. And I love the fans. I see so many people here today that I know. So thank you for showing up for us, and we'll keep showing up for you.
I know it's hard to choose one, but do you have a favorite fan story, a funny one or a heartfelt one?
I do have a favorite. It's Heartfelt, which is not usually what I go for, but I'm going to do it. It was a song called, I was signing downtown in one of the stores, one of the bars or something. I can't remember exactly where I was, but this little girl walked up to me and she said, my favorite song of yours is Same Day, Different Bottle, which is a song that I wrote about my dad's alcoholism. And it's a very heavy, serious song. And this child was probably 11, 12 years old. And I remember thinking, that is so interesting that she said that. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. And her grandmother came up next. And she said her mother's a severe alcoholic. And when she heard that song, she didn't feel like she was alone. And I would have never had that interaction with that little girl without CMA Fest. And it was like the first time I realized, dang, I gotta keep writing songs, because she was a little girl and I was that little girl. So it was just a really cool thing. And we were in like a teeny tiny room, and I was face to face with this little girl, and I took a picture with her, and she still comes to my shows to this day. And she's not so little anymore. Neither one of us are. We're both older, but it was cool. It was really cool, and there are so many examples like that, but that one specifically stands out to me.
Well, I think it just speaks to the power of music, which is why we're all here. Yes. Bill, as a writer, it doesn't have to be a fanfare story. Do you have something like that, or a story of a family? You've written Whiskey Lullaby, you've written so many songs.
Yeah, I was thinking when Lauren was talking about that I've had so many people tell me over the years since John Randall and I wrote Whiskey Lullaby, and Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss had that great record on it. I've had so many people tell me how that song has touched their lives, how they've turned away from drinking and various things like that. The country songs really do speak to people, and those are the songs that we don't always write, but we try to write. We try to write the songs that people can identify with. I tell people all the time, I don't write for me. I write for these people out here. The greatest compliment as a writer that I can be paid is for somebody to come up to me and say, I heard a certain song and you must have written that just for me, because that's just the way I feel. I couldn't put it into words, but you did. That's the greatest compliment that a songwriter can ever be paid. I want to venture off just a little bit, if I can, and just say that what everybody up here has said, I want to echo it also. I was a fan a long time before I was ever in the music business. I remember as a young boy standing in line waiting for autographs. I remember Hank Snow came to my hometown one time, and I stood in a line to wait and get autographs. And it gives you an entirely different perspective when somebody is standing in the line and they're asking for or waiting for your autograph, and you know how they feel because you've stood in that line and you've waited for that autograph. And you might say, golly, I wish this line wasn't quite so long. And then you stop and think, no, I'm glad it is. I'm glad it's long, because I remember how it felt when I finally got Hank Snow's autograph. And I want people to feel that way when I sign something for them.
Every fan matters.
I'm sorry?
Every fan matters, and I'm glad that it matters to you guys as well.
Oh, yeah.
I asked for his autograph like 3 weeks ago.
I'm
I got your autograph like 3 weeks ago, remember?
Oh, that's right, you did.
Yeah, we wrote a song together, and I made him sign the paper
And it
I
wasn't
wrote
a
the
check?
lyrics on.
I love the song we wrote. Can I tell them what it is?
Yeah, you can. Tell him.
You're engaged.
I am getting married.
We're in the room. It's me and Lauren and Jeannie Seeley.
Which, by the way, can you believe that?
You could get the papers on that trio, I tell you right now. But Lauren is telling Jeannie and I that she's going to get married. And she says, she's telling all the plans that she's made and everything. And she looks at us and she says, and I've already named the kids. I said, that is our song. And we wrote a song called I've Named the Kids.
I said, he can't leave me because I've already named the kids. So he's stuck with me.
It seems like we've transitioned from the heartfelt to the funny, but I'm going to still go around with Terri with the heartfelt story, and then we're going to come back and follow up on that.
Oh gosh, so many heartfelt stories from, people coming up to you and telling you what your song meant to them, and there's a whole lot of that. And I think as a songwriter, that Bill is right. There's no bigger compliment, and at fanfare, I still call it fanfare. I'm a little old school. I just remember spending so much time thinking about how we're going to decorate the booth. What am I going to put on my booth this year? Is it going to be hay bales, horseshoes, cowboy hats, guitars, balloons? And then I remember, because of being a fan and going and standing in line so much, like you said, this line is so long. And as an artist, I'm like, how long's my line? I want to make sure my line's long, right? Is my line long? And then, but I've met, it's the same people that would come every year. And from my heart, I will say, watching people as their kids showing up, and then 15 years later or 20 years later, they're bringing their kids. And then 10 years, 20 years later, or whatever it is, they're now bringing their grandkids. Like the people that were the same age as me when I was starting out when I was 26, and I was at my first booth, and we were all sweating out there together, are now bringing their grandbabies to my show. And I think that the country music, we're all a big family. We're all growing old together, whether you like it or not. And that's something that strikes me more and more as the years go by, that people just keep showing up and they're spreading the love and passing it down, and country music lives on.
Yeah, I was going to kind of hit on the same thing Terri just said. That's spot on. For me, is when you're going from event to event or radio remotes, and you're going to the bathroom, there's a line of fans in the hall or wherever it is, and even coming in here, there's some fans back there, and you see people that you've seen for years, and you start to know their names, and they give you a picture to sign of a couple years back or their favorite record, and those interactions are special. They're unique, and they're important. And I just see in my head just people that you see every year. That's awesome. That's what it's all about right there, is lifelong fans, and just special. Yeah, that's my favorite thing about it, is seeing people and getting to know their names and kind of surprising them. Like, hey, there's, and I know Chelsea's somewhat of a local, but Chelsea Jansen, she shows up for years at things that we've done, and it's like, what's up, Chelsea? Hey, mom. Brings her mom, and it's personal and it's personable, and so just like Terri said, we're all gonna grow old with each other, and we're all grateful for the support. We're all fans, like Lauren said. It's so grateful for country music to be in it, but also as a fan, how it's affected my life and got me through things and allowed me to have a purpose.
In the documentary, Vince talks about the intimacy of the fairgrounds, and he says, I kind of miss that because we all were kind of together back there, and I remember the stench. Terri and I were talking about that earlier with the autograph place, was that where they had the pigs in the corrals. But Bill and Terri, what can you talk about that day for fans who only have the stadium experience?
Well, it was very different. It was kind of like pole barns with concrete and no air conditioning. And like I said before, everybody had their booth that they decorated, and it was kind of a theme. And you'd walk around looking at the other booths, and you're like, that booth's nicer than my booth. I got to put more thought into that next year. But people were they were close, and it seems like every year, don't you think, it's the temperature in Nashville is just lovely until June 5th. And then all of a sudden it's 110 degrees and the humidity. And so that definitely made for a lovely stew at the fairgrounds. And sitting outside, what we do in the stadium too. But it was a lot closer. They should have been passing out deodorant at the door for most of them, I think. Yeah.
Our sponsorship team's here. Don't give them any new ideas for this year.
My booth at Fanfare at the fairgrounds was in one of the exhibition buildings right as you walked in, which it was wonderful most of the time, because the first booth they would see, the first person they would see, the first artist they would see was Bill Anderson, because I was right there by the door. But the other side of that coin is, as Terri said, we used to have a state law that Fanfare Week, it had to be 100 degrees, and the humidity had to be 99%, and it had to rain every day at 2 o'clock. Now, when you've got your booth right there by the door, most of the time, that's really nice. But when the people are coming in to get out of the rain, and the first person they see is you, and they come over and say, hey, I've always wanted to meet you, hug me, and they start shaking, and you feel like a drowned rat. I had more fans shake water on me at Fanfare than you could ever count.
Well, that's a great segue to the funny things that have happened to you guys at Fanfare. So I'm going to jump to Terri, because I know all of you guys have a funny thing you've signed or a funny situation.
I've got, it didn't necessarily happen to me, but this story it's almost legend at this point. It was Blake Shelton. He was entering one of the buildings, and it was when he had that long mullet and he was wearing his cowboy hat all the time. And there were a group of fans standing behind the roped off area. And he got out of the car and he's walking into the building, and all they saw was the back of him. They all start yelling, "Terri! Terri!" He whips around. He's like, "I'm cutting my damn hair now." Yeah, I think that's what coaxed him into cutting his mullet off. Finally, he got. I don't know if that's like a bad thing for him or a bad thing for me. I'm not sure, but it's not a compliment to either one of us.
Is that when he lost the hat too?
Dude looks like a lady, I guess. But I thought that story was pretty funny. He's told that story a few times too. But hey, Terri! No, not Terri.
So Brian, you have one?
Trying to think of what's a funny story. Here's a memory. I don't know if it's funny. It may be kind of funny, but maybe the second or third year we played, we were on the same night as Keith Urban. It was he's like, "Hey, you guys want to do a song of mine and come out on stage?" We're like, "Yeah." You know, days go by, or like, raining on Sunday. It's like, "We'll do Blackbird." Love that song, but I don't think we both knew it as much as some of the other ones. So we were up on his bus rehearsing before, and he's shredding on this acoustic, playing the heck out of it just for Blackbird. And I'm not sure if we crushed it that night or not. But I remember being up on stage, a little nervous, not totally prepared. But I think we got through it.
And you're hoping the fans are going to sing along, so that
Yeah,
you just lose your voice in the middle of them all.
You kinda,
That's when
Old
you know we
Faithful.
forgot the words.
Yeah.
Whenever we do that.
just give it to y'all. Y'all always save the day. Never fails.
So get ready. You might see a lot of this
Yeah,
week.
that's right. That's right.
How about you, Lauren?
Oh, yes, I have plenty. The best one, though, actually, that picture you showed, I was in that outfit with the sparkly thing. So that now you have
Put
a
it back
visual,
up if we can.
visual reference.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So I was running late because of my hair girl. And she's not my hair girl anymore. But, okay, yeah, that outfit. And the shoes that were with it were not blessed. And everything's shut down. The roads are all shut down. So you can't be late. You have to be early so that you can make sure you're getting where you need to go. And I was performing at Riverfront, and I couldn't get to the stage. Like, we were, all the roads. So I got out of the car in that sparkly outfit and proceeded to run from 6th to 1st. People were screaming my name. People were screaming Kelsey Ballerini. And finally, there was somebody with a golf cart. To this day, I don't know who that person was, but God bless them. I jumped on this golf cart, and somebody said, "Kelsey Ballerini!" And the girl goes, "Are you Kelsey Ballerini?" I said, "I am right now. Can you get me to Riverfront?" And yeah, it was pretty funny. But I was like, I wish I could run into somebody that saw me, high heels, show clothes, sprinting, trying to get to my performance. It was pretty, and it was 9,000 degrees. I looked super great when I got to the I paid for makeup, and then I had to borrow somebody else's and just redo it. So it was a pretty good one.
We have all these new staff people at CMA that this is their first fest. And I always tell them comfortable shoes and water. I never thought to have to tell the artists that.
Yeah.
So comfortable shoes and water.
Yeah, you got it, sis.
So Bill, I'm sure you have a plethora of great stories.
A what?
A whole bunch of them.
A whole bunch of. Can I tell my very favorite fanfare
Sure.
story? I don't know. It's not necessarily funny, but I think it says something. I had a fan up in Pennsylvania. He was one of the most devoted fans I think I had ever had. Anytime we would play within 200 miles or 300 miles of his hometown, he would come see us. And not only would he come see the show, but he would get there early and he would help the band unload the bus and the equipment and help set it up. And when the show was over, he was there to help take the equipment down and put it back on the bus. He was a very, very devoted fan. He brought his mother with him to some of the shows. She was a fan as well. Well, fast forward a few years, and it's a few weeks before Fanfare, and he calls me on the telephone, and he tells me that he has moved to Nashville, he and his family. And we talk a little bit about it. And he said, by the way, he said, I've got a young teenage daughter that really wants to sing. And one of the reasons we moved to Nashville is so that she might have the opportunity. He said, but I can't find anywhere in town where she can go and perform. And I want to find a place where she can get some experience in front of a live audience. And she said, do you know of any place? And I'm thinking, she's 14 years old, and I'm thinking, you know, most of the places, the clubs and various places at 14, you can't even get in them, let alone go in there and perform. And he said, I'm just feeling like I'm just up against a brick wall. And I said, well, I'll tell you something. I said, we've got an event coming up here in town in a couple of weeks called Fanfare. He said, I've heard of that. I said, well, every year I have about 250 to 300 of my fans, and we have a fan club dinner, as a lot of the artists did back in those days. They would host lunches and dinners and breakfasts and things. I said, I'm going to have a fan club dinner at the Old Hickory Country Club on Wednesday night or whatever of Fanfare Week. And if you want to bring your daughter, I said, we can't pay her anything, but if you just want her to get up on the stage and get some experience singing, bring her to my fan club dinner. We'll feed you dinner and let her get up and sing a couple of songs. He said, wonderful. So they showed up that night, sat over in the corner, ate dinner very quietly. I got up in front of my fans and sang 2 or 3 songs. My band was there. And I said, we've got a young lady here tonight, a young girl that's just moved to town with her family. And she wants to get some experience singing in front of people. And we invited her to come here tonight, and she came up on the stage. She had a 12-string guitar, almost as big as she was. And I introduced her, and she proceeded to sing a couple of songs. Now, picture a 14-year-old girl. My fans were the older, more traditional-minded country music fans, and this young girl was very today in that day, and her songs were a little more pop-oriented. And my fans were very nice to her, but they just kind of gave her polite applause. She didn't tear the house down by any means. And after the event was over, I saw some of my fans and heard them come up and say, honey, you did real good, and we wish you a lot of luck, but they were just being nice, okay? Fast forward a few years, and if you'd like to know whatever happened to that little 14-year-old girl, you can look her up on the internet. Her name is Taylor Swift. She came back to Nashville a few weeks ago and played to the largest crowd that a music show has ever played to, but she still remembers, and she's told me, and her dad has told me, as recently as yesterday, he called me, that was her very first Nashville appearance, was at Fanfare, and she's never forgotten it.
And she's also one of those artists who has a deep relationship with the fans going all the way back to those days. So it's great that you got to introduce her to fans. Brian and Lauren, you guys have both come into this during the stadium era. And about 11 years ago, we at the CMA made a dedication to give over half of our proceeds each year to music education efforts. So to date, that's been about $29 million. And thanks to the artists that are here today, we're going to give another $2.5 million to make sure that kids in public schools have access to instruments and strong music teachers to support them. Both of you have been advocates for music education around the country. You want to talk about maybe your youth or your teachers, both of you, and why being here at Fest and being able to support kids with instruments is important to you?
Well, I'm so excited to follow the Taylor Swift story. That is a great story. I am very passionate about it. Music class for me growing up changed my life. It was a place where I knew I belonged. And I actually have a really cool story. In sixth grade choir class, I was sitting next to this boy, and he was painfully shy. And we sat together every day. We were buddies, and he was humming or something, and I kind of heard it. And I said, "Can you sing?" And he said, "No, I don't. I don't sing in front of people. I like to sing, but I don't sing in front of people." And I said, "Well, you're going to today." And I made him sing for. I made him stay after class. I don't even know who I thought I was that I thought you're going to be late to your next class because I'm going to hear you sing. And he sang for the teacher and I. And the whole rest of that year, he ended up like we did all kinds of songs together in choir, and he started singing like all the time. And then we got older, and I moved to Nashville, and then at some point I heard he moved to Nashville, and I ran into him at like the CAA barbecue. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I heard you moved to town. How are things going?" And that little boy grew up to be Kane Brown. And we ended up recording a song together. And I mean, we grew up together. I've known him my whole life. And we connected and became friends because of music class. And now we have careers that we have a song together, and I was the first person he ever sang in front of in choir class. So I think and for both of us we had interesting home lives, and it was an escape for us, and especially for him, and gave us both a sense of purpose. And I think that's some kids aren't athletes, some kids do music and play instruments. And I remember in ninth grade, the choir class was cut due to funding at my high school, and I couldn't go anymore, and it was devastating to me. And so I love it, and I love everything that you guys do for those kids, and I think it is so important.
Well, you guys do it for the kids by showing up. Brian, last words?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think there's any greater gift than the gift of music. Music education or instruments, learning how to record. I think we're all so lucky and so blessed to have music lead our lives. I can't imagine where I'd be without it. Clearly not playing professional baseball because I didn't get drafted, so that wasn't an option. But no, I remember, in high school I took a couple years of piano class, and Mr. Inslee was my teacher, and he had a love for music and learning, and challenged me, but also helped me, would spend time with me. I remember like one of our assignments was Fur Elise, and I was like, I can't do that. There's no way. I can go throw a fastball and hit the corner and throw a good curveball, but I don't know, or maybe I could play like easy chords or something, but I can't play that song. And, him believing in me and spending time with me after class and giving me confidence was another step of getting me to where I am today. And so without that, it's just, I don't imagine a world where, it's just, that support is huge. And I think we're all so blessed to do music for a living that we have to pass that on. We have to leave that behind. We have to keep that going. Music is so special. It has so many elements to it. Whether you're sad, you're happy, you want to be sad, you want to be happy, you want to drink some beer, you want to go out, you want to figure out how to get through something spiritually. You want to, there's so many elements to country music. So I just, anything that I can do, and I'm sure we all can do to give back for music education and putting a guitar in somebody's hand, or a piano lesson, or anything in recording. It's huge, and it's helping the music that's going to come down the pipe in the future. I can't wait to hear it, and hopefully we have a little hand in that.
You do. The theme I've heard today is that's about dreams. It's about the dreams of those students or Kane next to you, or the impact of the songs when people have heard that, or seeing those artists and seeing those artists that inspired you. And some of these folks could be the artists of tomorrow who are coming to the festival. So thank you guys for your engagement in the music. We're here because of you guys, the fans. And I want to thank Billboard and our great panelists for being with us today. And I hope you hydrate, comfortable shoes, and have a wonderful next 4 days.